Katie, I'm an alcoholic. I've been like sitting over there against the wall doing like deep breaths to like calm my nervous system, so I can really use Codral in that. I'm a little nervous. But first off, I want to tell you all, like, I don't know what your choice is, if you like chose to be here tonight or if the treatment van dropped you off in the parking lot or like what the deal is, but I'm truly honored to get to share my experience, strength, and hope with you all tonight. So thank you for being here. Let's see. There's this sort of like unspoken, I feel like, layout of like introducing yourself when you speak. And so what I've heard is that people will announce like that they have a sponsor, and their sponsor knows there's a sponsor, their sponsor. So yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I have just almost, like, I'm so close to 2 years sober. My sobriety date is August 10th of 2000. Or I'm sorry, that's not right. My belly button birthday is August 10th. I'll be 30 this year. But my sobriety date is August 4th of 2017, and that's been kind of a cool thing for me. Like now, I get to celebrate 2 birthdays within a week, and that's kind of fun. But yes, I have a sponsor, and she knows she's my sponsor, and I have found in the past few months that I call her for everything. So, in the beginning, I've had 2 sponsors since I started this deal, and my first sponsor took me through the steps when I was in treatment, and I'm really grateful for what she did for me and taking me through the steps and the experience I had with her. But we didn't have the relationship that I have with my sponsor today. I want to say that I rely on her for everything, but that's not true. I relay everything through her. And the difference in my life today as compared to before I got sober is that I get to bounce my ideas off somebody and consider their input and then take action. And that's not something I used to do in the past. So I'm super grateful to have a sponsor. I've had mentors in my life, but they were usually people that I just would bounce ideas off and then do whatever I wanted to do. So that looks really different in my life today, and I'm super grateful for that. So I brought a few little notes to keep me on track. Hopefully they will. I may take a tangent or two, but that's okay. Apparently I have 45 minutes, so it's 7:38 right now. So I've spoken one other time, and I got to share my experience, strength, and hope, but I'm really excited today to share a little bit deeper on that. I'm also a yoga instructor, and one of the things that I like to say and to share in my classes is that it's something I stole from AA. I hope that you hear something here today that you can take away with you, and I also hope that you get to leave something in this room. So that's kind of my hope for you today. I hope that, if nothing else, something in my story resonates with you. And if not, I hope that you brought something into this room today, whether it was anxiety, whether it was an argument that's still playing in your head, or just something leave it here today. You don't have to take that back home with you. So that's my hope. And then maybe you will hear something, and 3 weeks down the road, you've stored it in the back of your mind, and you'll get to use it. So what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, that's what I'm going to progress through for the next very many minutes. When I think about what it was like, my heart still gets really sad. I carried a lot of shame for a long time, and that's something that through the steps and through this process, I've gotten to shed that layer of skin. I may no longer carry the shame, but I still get sad. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to be sad about the risky behavior I engaged in and about the way that I displayed my behavior and the things that I chose to do. In my drinking career, as I think through the past and what it was like, there's these very significant kind of red flag moments that come up. And at the time they were so funny, and I really love that Kajal was so honest about I was really proud of the fact that I was an alcoholic for a long time, because I wasn't necessarily I was yeah, I know I'm a fucking drunk, I know that I act yeah, sure, I danced on the tables last night, that's hilarious, but my friends were really concerned for me, and they were like, let's have sober dances, let's close down the back patio of the office, and we'll two-step here so that you're not on the floor. But, those are the little things, the, having to be carried home from the bars, that's the little stuff in comparison to, those big red flags. And so I'll share some of those things with you. I always, forever, and I've heard that this is, a staple characteristic of an alcoholic is, you remember your first drunk and you remember your last drunk, and they're significant. And my first drunk, I will never forget. I don't necessarily remember the entire night, but it's a night I will never forget. I was at this party. I think I was maybe 16 or 17. It was in high school. I latched on to this huge football player for the entire night and followed him around like a puppy. And I also tried to drink like he drank. So I probably weighed 95 pounds, and he probably weighed 260. And I tried to drink like he drank. And that's also probably a really good indicator that I had a problem before. That was literally the first party I was at, literally the first drunk I had. That's what I decided was the best thing to do. And so he would send me all night long upstairs to get him. He was drinking vodka and Gatorade, bright yellow, lime green Gatorade, which also came out bright yellow, lime green Gatorade in the morning. So every time he'd go up, he had this big mason jar. It was one of the 20-ounce mason jars. And so I'd go upstairs, fill it for him, and then drink 3/4 of it, and then fill it for him and take it downstairs. Several times that night. And then probably at 2 in the morning, I barfed it all up, and it was the same color coming out it did going in. And I proceeded to drink until the sun came up. And, looking back on that today, that's not healthy. I didn't know it at the time. It was just fun. I was just having fun. And it was really fun in the beginning, But as things progressed and as my drinking got wilder, I started to really engage in risky behavior. I will share openly because I think that it probably would resonate with people in this space that I've been raped on more than one occasion. And the reason I share that is that I believe, and I don't know if this is fact or not, but I believe that there are a couple of ways that people will act after that type of trauma. I think that they will withdraw and pull in and shut people out, or they will choose the path that I chose, and that is to engage in really risky behavior. And I stopped caring about myself. I stopped caring about my body. I stopped caring about who cared about my body. And I shared it with anybody that came along. So reclaiming that today has been a huge part of my recovery. But those are the types of things that happened when I put myself in environments where drinking and excessive drinking and things like that were a big deal. And I don't know still today that I feel that I have a part in those acts, and that's something that I've gotten to work through with both of my sponsors and through treatment and all kinds of layer peeling. But I don't know what my part is still, and that's something that I think I will be working on for the rest of my life. But like I said, I carried shame around for a long time. I felt like it was my fault, and I've gotten to shed that layer of skin, and that's been pretty cool. But one of those times sticks out really boldly in my mind as one of those red flags as far as drinking goes. How many of you all know how big of a deal the rodeo is in Prescott? It's a very big deal. We're the world's oldest rodeo home. So that's really neat. And being from Prescott, that's a fun fact. I'm from Prescott, which is kind of rare, I feel in this environment. Usually people come here to get sober, but I spent my years here not sober and then came back to get sober. So that's weird. But when I was living in Flagstaff, I would come home for the rodeo, and one of the years that I did that, I went downtown, I drank a lot, I have been convinced for years that I was roofied downtown. But in learning about alcoholism and learning about the effects of the disease and what happens, I am open to the idea today that I might not have been roofied. However, what proceeded after we left downtown was traumatic and will resonate with me for the rest of my life, and that's where I don't feel I have a part. So that night I did get raped, and I left these individuals home in the middle of the night, and they were 20 miles out of town. So I had no car, I had no shoes. I walked from their house through the woods 20 miles back into town. And I actually, today, now that I know that this is Safe Harbor, I realized that I woke up at one point, like passed out on the sidewalk, like just a block from here, and I had no idea that this place was here. And like, had I, it probably would have been super cool to like be in this room, but I didn't. And so I continued walking all over town, and this girl was driving this like ratty Ford pickup truck. It was red and white. I'll never forget. She'd passed me like 3 or 4 times, and she finally stopped and was like, "Where the hell are you trying to go?" She's like, "You're covered in blood. I've passed you 3 times. Can I take you wherever you're trying to go?" So she took me into my car. I drove home, probably still shit-faced, to my parents' house. My mom asked me the same set of questions, and I just told her I didn't effing know and to leave me alone, and I went down in my room. And part of like peeling back those layers and learning about why I have felt so broken for so long is that in those moments I wish, and my sponsor likes to point out that I like to rewrite the ending. So the rewritten ending for that chapter of my life would have been like, I wish my mom would have like grabbed me by the hair or like pulled me by my ear or whatever and said like, "I don't care where you've been, I don't care how old you are, I don't care that you are lying to me, I just want you to go to the hospital and we want to get to the bottom of this." But that's not what happened. And therefore, I hid it and I buried it and I stuffed it, and that's been a big part of recovery for me, as well as learning like not to internalize my stuff. So again, the red flags, like that's a big red flag. And as I got closer to like realizing that I have a problem, I feel like this is probably the case for most people, but maybe not, like things got a lot worse. I had this really great job. Like I was a preschool teacher. I've also like I haven't been fired from every job that I've ever had, but I've been the one to leave or to quit or to find some kind of issue. And I also, like Kajal said, like I relate my alcoholism to that because I'm so selfish. Like, I'm right. You're the one who's gossiping. You're the one who has the problem. I am the perfect person in this position, so like I'm going to leave before there's more conflict. That's been my solution to everything. Like, I'm going to flee the scene before the scene gets wild. So I had a series of really great jobs. Like, I worked in a mortgage company for a while and got paid really well, and it was awesome. I had a boss that like fully supported anything and everything that I wanted to do. In fact, I got a DUI while working for him, and he paid for my lawyer fees. Like, really great boss. However, again, like I didn't get along with a few of the women that worked there. So of course, like they're women, they're catty, they have problems. Not me, bye. So I quit. And what I found to be true after that point was that the relationships I started to build in bars and at parties and within the drinking community. So I ended up having this job at a performance auto shop. I worked the front desk of like a Subaru shop, and my boss was a rageaholic and an alcoholic, and he yelled at me and belittled me and made me feel stupid. But because I'm codependent, like I learned a lot about his past and his history and why he is and treats. So he had multiple sclerosis. He had MS, and so he also had bipolar. And so he had these like extreme mood swings. And when he would be in pain, he would be angry, and when he was like having a good day, he would be like mellow but still pissed off. So being the codependent person that I am, I like wanted to please him, and I wanted to do everything right, and I wanted to learn how to do the job, and I wanted to be out in the garage like learning how to work on cars, but I couldn't use the computer system right, so that wasn't happening yet. So all this like dumb stuff. But eventually he let me go because I lost him thousands of dollars because I couldn't like ring things into the computer correctly. So he was super graceful for a long time. Like, it takes money to make money, blah, blah, blah. But he ended up letting me go. And one of the things, and I share this because like he said this like very bold statement to me as he let me go. I was like working through my DUI and like doing my drug and alcohol abuse counseling courses and all this stuff and like bullshitting my way through them and then going home and drinking. And he sat me down. I sat at my chair at my desk, and he sat in like the customer chair, which I'll always remember because it felt very like he was acting very humble, I felt at that moment. And he said that he appreciated everything that I did, but it was always something with me. And in that moment, I was like, oh, like, it's always something with you. You're an asshole. And I just was like, what the fuck ever, and like didn't want to deal. And I just like took off, stormed out that day. He gave me 2 weeks severance pay, which was like beyond, like he didn't have to do that. I lost him as much money as he paid me for my time there. So that was like a pretty humble and phenomenal. And I've had the chance through the steps to like make amends to him and ask if there's anything I can do, and his response was just like, be free, you know. I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned in sobriety is like I want freedom, and like who am I to withhold that from anybody, especially if I don't ask it. So like being told a few times like it's cool, like you're forgiven, you were forgiven a long time ago, has been just like astounding to me. But at any rate, when I lost this job because of the like codependent relationships I had built with everyone at that job, I felt like I had lost everything. Like I had this little tiny, tight-knit community. I had pushed away a lot of the friends that I had developed before that. A lot of the relationships in my life were just kind of like falling to shit because like I couldn't show up for anybody. So I lost this job and got the like hardest case of the fuck it's I have ever had in my life. And I would just like, I lived a block from downtown Flagstaff, so everything was right there. Like my favorite bar was right there. My favorite little like grab and go place was right there. So I'd like go hang out downtown, like try to get people to come with me, and if they couldn't, like, oh well, like I'm sure I'm gonna know somebody at Hops on Birch, so I'll just go hang out. So I'd like walk my dog downtown and just like go to the bar by myself and like drink by myself at the bar, and then like if I didn't see anybody I knew by 10 o'clock, I would head home and drink by myself and like stop at the grab and go place on the way and just drink in my room by myself. So on the day that leading up to what happened, the day that I had court for my DUI, so this is like a whole entire like year process of like courts and shit, and then an entire another year of like the breathalyzer and the bullshit. But the day that I had my court date and found out like these fines have been dropped, this has been removed from your record, this is what your fine is going to look like. That was August 3rd. I went out to celebrate with some friends and also to celebrate my birthday. I was turning 27. So great. Or 28. I was turning 28. I was 20. Whatever. Doesn't matter. We went out to sushi and drank, and then we went to a concert, and I know the band that was playing. They've been really great friends of mine since college. And I was telling the bartender this story about how one of their songs was about one of my old college boyfriends. And as I'm telling her this story, she's like filling up this huge glass of whiskey. Like my drink when I wanted to get in trouble was whiskey sours. So I ordered a whiskey sour. And she filled up like 5/6 of the glass with whiskey and then like splashed the top with sour. And she was like, it's on me. And so part of my, I guess it's codependence too, like part of my drinking habits were like, if somebody gifted me a drink, I had to drink it. Like, that was so nice of you. If I don't drink it, that's rude. So I got drunk a lot. So that particular night, I had already been drinking all evening, and I like felt obligated to finish this drink, and I like tried to share it with people, and they were like, that's disgusting. I will not help you drink that. So I had to finish it. And that's kind of the last thing I remember. I remember getting into my friend's truck I remember him trying to take me over to my boyfriend at the time, to his house. And this guy that I was dating at that time is a big part of kind of my like last few months of drinking. Like, he was very sick, and we kept each other sicker. And that's, probably been the hardest. It was the hardest thing for me to let go of, coming here and coming to treatment. But today I'm so glad I did. He's still very sick, and it hurts my heart. But that all being said, my friend tried to drop me off at this guy's house, and that is the last thing I remember. And I got to read in the police report what happened. So apparently I got very belligerent and angry that my boyfriend wasn't going to come, that he didn't come to the concert that night, that he wasn't going to come to a wedding with me later in the month. And I just like started every fight in the book and like slammed his very expensive speaker system onto the ground and like knocked one of his mom's plants down. Just a whole bunch of other malicious stuff, because like he hurt me, so I was physically hurting him in the way that I damaged his belongings that he cared for. So if that makes sense, we're all in the right place. That night he asked me to leave. I wouldn't leave. He called the taxi and asked me to get in the taxi, and I wouldn't get in the taxi. And finally he resorted to calling the police. And for like months afterwards, I wanted to believe that it must have been the neighbors, or like it must have been the taxi cab, or it couldn't have been Jared. But like Jared would never call the cops on me. Jared absolutely called the cops on me that night. Like, I was the asshole. He wanted me out. So that's been like neat to reconcile with. But he had me escorted with red and blue lights to the county jail. And I woke up that morning. And the thing today that, like, I woke up with this sense of, like, I know this place, and I wasn't scared that I was in jail again. Like, what scared me was that I wasn't scared. It was familiar. And that is something that I'm going to hold close forever, that fear of, like, the familiarity of all of it. Yes, I woke up in jail for the second time, and I will never forget all of that next day. I walked home. Not only did I live a block from downtown, but I also lived a block from the jail. So I walked home from jail, and it was probably one of the worst monsoons that Flagstaff had seen that summer. And I remember thinking that if only God would strike the lamp post that I was about to put my hand on for the crosswalk, I would just be so happy. Like, if he would take me right then, electrocute me or whatever, like if I could just get struck by lightning, it would be fine. And I walked to my room. I crawled in my bed. My clothes were soaked. I was soaked to the bone, and I was just like, I was pathetic, and I felt pathetic, and my life looked pathetic, and I was super depressed. And I did, like, I wanted to die. And when I was laying there in the jail cell, I had like formulated this plan, and I laid in my bed for like a good 2 hours researching like what the effects of all of the migraine medication I was taking would have if I were to take them all. And then this is probably a spiritual experience that I had. This little voice inside me was like, call your dad. Ask if you can get on unemployment because you have not been working for months. So rather than taking my migraine medication, I asked my dad if he thought like opting into unemployment was a good option. And he laughed hysterically. And he was like, you were working at an auto shop under the table. That guy's not even going to like admit that you existed. So I didn't do that. And then like towards the end of our conversation, I was like, oh, P.S. I was in jail again last night. Okay, bye. And he was like, wait. You need to talk to your mom. So I got on the phone with my mom and told her what had happened. And that was the moment that like I sighed this sigh of relief, and like my shoulders fell down, and I was like, Mom, I need help. Like, I can't do this way anymore. Like, my life sucks, and I don't want to live this way anymore. And she came to Flagstaff the next day from Prescott. My whole family's here. Everybody's here. So she drove here, from here to Flagstaff and spent the entire day with me, talking about options and what we needed to do for me. And she finally was just like, will you come home? And so I said yes, and she went back to Prescott that night and brought my dad's truck up the next day, and we packed up all my belongings, and I came home. And then I was like pretty convinced that I was going to go to the Meadows because I'd been there before, and it was like cushy and sounded like the kind of treatment center I wanted to go to, and like eat 5-star chef food and like go on vacation essentially for however long. But that's not what happened. God had other plans. He put the owner of Recovery in the Pines in my parents' path. And I had known him from years before. I dated a guy who went through that program. So that's another red flag. And then I got the opportunity to go through Recovery in the Pines here in Prescott. And it was the hardest 4 months of my life. I was inpatient for 4.5 months, and then I was outpatient for a year. And in that time, I did get to like peel back the layers and like lift the veil just a little bit and see into like what I drink over, like what I drink about. And I also believe that I inherited this disease. My mom is an alcoholic, and my dad is a sweet, sweet man, but he's enabled her our entire lives. And my brother struggled with some stuff, and so it's a family disease for sure. And I feel that I got the short end of that stick, but that's okay, you know. I wouldn't have it any other way today. Yes, so as I have walked this journey of sobriety, I've gotten to do some pretty cool things. Last year, this time, I went skydiving. Just stuff I like I would talk about. Like I used to be a talker and a dreamer and not a doer. So in the past 2 years, I've gotten to be a talker and a dreamer and then follow through on my actions. And that's not something that I did when I was drinking. I remember there was this time frame where I had like lost that job at the auto shop, and I told everyone that I was. Do you know what woofing is? It's like working for free and being paid in food. So I was gonna go woof on this farm in Hawaii. This just sounds so great. And live in a tent and get paid with like fruits and vegetables. It sounds like the life. But I was really into it, and I really thought I was going to do it, and I talked about it, and I talked about it, and I talked about it, and then I got offered a job, and I was like, that's the better option. And I don't know, maybe someday I really will go wolf on a farm and get paid in fruits and vegetables, because it's something that I want to do. But about just 2 weeks or so before I hit my 1 year, I got this like calling to become a yoga instructor. Like I've done yoga for years and years and years, and the Lord put it on my heart that like that's what I needed to do. So I talked about it, and I talked about it, and I talked about it, and I made a plan, and I put money down on plane tickets, and then I went and I did it. So I got my teacher certification, and I talked about having a potential job with a woman here in town, and she hired me the instant I came home. So that's how I try to live my life today, and I've come to know that through like in this second year of sobriety, like it's been about my character more than it has been about my drinking. That first year was really working through like why I drink and how I drink and undoing all of that stuff. And this second year has been a lot about my character. And I love the steps. They were hard, you know, like getting through that first set of steps was rough. And I found that like with my first sponsor, I thought I was doing a really thorough fourth step. And when we did my fifth step, she was like, "Are you sure that's everything?" Because it wasn't very long. But then when I did the steps a second time with my current sponsor, it took me months to do each one of the steps. Like, it probably, I don't know, it took me for freaking ever. I was probably on like my fourth step for 3 months, and then when I got to the eighth step, I like sat on that one for months too. But what I found is that like things were coming up that I hadn't addressed in the past, and it was more about my character. And today I like to, like, I work the steps around like individual things all the time. Like, I'm powerless over my procrastination today. I got to get out of bed. And then I get out of bed. And I ask for help to get me through the rest of the day and not put stuff off all the time. So that's what I'm coming to learn. I'm like running out of thoughts. I was going to apologize for my scratchy voice earlier, and I wondered if anyone would get the reference if I apologized that I sound like Marcel the Shell with shoes on. But I forgot, and then I remembered, and it's like not as funny now. But actually, also, I had a thought too, like if I share that in the beginning, that's all anybody will be thinking about if they know the video, so I'll just leave that to the end. So, I don't know. I guess that's it, you guys. Thanks.